All right, you know what? I guess we can start. So welcome, everybody. Really excited. Can everybody hear me okay, first of all? Yeah, good in the back? Great. So really excited to share with you in more detail about what Secretary Ramos just announced. And this is something that's been a labor of love for the last, John Carota here, one of my cohorts, partners in crime, can attest. This has been well over a year's worth of coordination, collaboration, and development of a tool that will help us to really truly articulate what the state's geographic data resources are, and then express those resources to three core audiences: government, business, and citizens. And as the title says here, mobile computing and GIS in California. We're going to talk somewhat about mobile, but the tie-in really today is to discuss how geographic data resources can be brought to play into mobile computing and how those resources can be accessed through the Geoportal tool. Okay, so as an agenda, we're going to talk about these 4 items here. And I'm going to really be stressing a lot on the first 2 items that we have up top. And I'd like to keep this interactive. I just don't want to talk at you. If you have questions, please feel free to fire them off at me. We want to kind of get some chatting going between us. So I think I'll start off talking a little bit about information as an asset. So in the state's IT strategy that was just released, item number 4, there's 5 key areas, and one in particular is information as an asset. And I don't know if many of you know in the audience here, but GIS has been developed for decades. And data has been developed for decades within the state of California. But oftentimes it's been siloed. It's been held within organizations and not shared outside, even with government, which could be problematic in many ways, right? We're overspending on data. We're not getting the most relevant and accurate and timely content. And that poses a problem. There's a diverse holding of geographic information in the state. There's over 90 organizations in California today that leverage geographic information systems to manage various business areas. In each one of them, either as a consumer of geographic information or a developer of geographic information. There's a small smattering of them here down at the bottom. You may recognize some of them. They're large entities within the state that actively develop and manage this information, but many times that information is locked up and not able to be shared with our constituents. So it posed a problem. How do we approach this issue of getting information out and sharing this information with those 3 core the core audience: the government, the business, and the citizen groups? And it made us really examine what it means to be stewards of information and share this information with the people that actually paid for it, the taxpayer. And so we came up with this concept of developing the state's Geoportal. Now, one thing I want to stress here is that this Geoportal was developed completely in-house by State of California employees. My staff and an individual from Scott Patterson's staff built this. This was developed quickly. It was developed in 9 months. And it was a monumental effort. We pulled together a lot of talented individuals, a lot of very creative individuals. John, raise your hand. I want to recognize John. He's embarrassed. John, come on, John. There he is. He's the man. John did a lot of the design, development, and back-end work for this, and he knocked it dead, and I want to recognize him publicly for that. I think he did a wonderful job. So when we look at this portal, we wanted to make it really represent the state of California's GIS community. It's a diverse community. GIS is not only done at the state level, but it's actually done all over government, even in education, the nonprofit world. GIS is the single most, and this is the world according to Scott, the single most transformative technology government can use. And I'll tell you why. Because we can visualize problems. We can look at patterns and trends in information to come up with solutions that are extremely complex. How else would you analyze those without looking at them using powerful tools and presenting them in a very simple, intuitive way through a picture? We all understand pictures. We all understand maps. And that's what GIS helps us do. So I want to go through the Geoportal today. I want to share with you some of the highlights, some of the aspects of it. But before doing so, I want to share with you a video, an overview video. It's a few minutes, but I think it'll really set the tone for digging into the presentation. This can be found on our YouTube channel. And if you don't know what that is, you're about to find out. So this can be found at, it's basically CAGIO 2012. That's our channel. And I'm going to go ahead and play this so we can get an overview. And again, this video was developed in-house by staff as well. So let's see if technology's our friend today.
Hello and welcome to an overview of the State of California Geoportal, where we will go over what the Geoportal is, its intended audience, and how its use will increase efficiency, cost savings, and improve transparency in the sharing of geographic information with government, business, and California's citizens. First, we'll go over the various features and functions of the Geoportal at a very high level. We'll have additional tutorials that will detail the specific tabs you see across the top of the page, and also some of the features and functions of the tabs. First, why was the Geoportal developed? Over the past 30 years, geographic data has been developed across state government. However, the data has been housed by individual organizations, which has created a situation where this data is not shareable and usable by government, business, and citizens until now. Geographic data can change the way in which we approach decision-making. It allows decision makers to visualize and understand information to answer questions like, where should I locate my business? Where should I live, or what area should I move to? What are the schools like there? What types of natural and man-made hazards are there within a certain boundary of the area I want to live or place my business? Using geographic information can be a very powerful decision-making tool. Let's look at the tabs across the top of the Geoportal homepage. As you scroll down, you will see there are many features, including a carousel, that will allow you to look at a select number of GIS applications from across the state. This map is for broadband coverage in California, developed by the California Public Utilities Commission. It allows you to quickly jump to an application they have developed. Under the Recent Items sidebar, you can access the most recent information that has been added to the Geoportal by our various partners. One point to clarify regarding the Geoportal: it does not house any organization's data, it links the data. It provides users the ability to catalog their information within our database, making it searchable across governments. This will be addressed more specifically in a subsequent video. The next tab at the top of the screen is the Gallery tab, which has been broken down into several key areas, specifically public safety, natural resources, education, health, and government. These are very focused applications that have been developed to address specific needs. For example, if we look at public safety, we can determine where a wildfire threat might be located, a tsunami threat, or generally natural and man-made hazards within proximity of a location, like your home, business, or daycare center. These are applications and tools that have been built and are now available through our gallery for easy use by government, business, and citizens. The next tab at the top of the home page is the Search tab. There are two types of search categories, a text-based search or a geographic search, where you can zoom into an area and ask the Geoportal to find data that only resides within the map view you have zoomed to, or data that intersects the map view. The search feature is a very powerful tool for looking at a specific area within the state to find data about the location of interest. The next tab is a Browse tab, which allows you to look at the catalog of information and search based on a content type, or what is called an ISO category. These categories break down the types of information that are available on the portal. For example, if we click on agriculture and farming, you will see numerous data sets that relate to this topic. It's a quick and easy way to find data fast and efficiently. The final tab on the right is the Map Viewer. The Map Viewer opens a new window and is linked directly to the Geoportal, so you can search for data sets on the map itself by using the tools across the top of the screen, including the Geoportal search, which we discussed earlier. That same search capability will allow you to search for specific data sets within a boundary or intersecting a location. For example, searching a keyword of fire, a number of data sets are returned. If you want to specifically look at fire threat, you can click on that data set and immediately see that you have searched the portal and accessed a data set that is registered on the portal. You can also zoom in and interact with the data set. This concludes the overview of the Geoportal. There will be supplemental videos and tutorials that will dig deeper into the search capabilities and ways to administer information within the Geoportal. To summarize, the State of California Geoportal gives individuals and organizations the ability to search, discover, and use geographic information to provide ways to better manage your world, to make better decisions you encounter in business, in government, and as citizens of the great state of California.
Okay, so my presentation's over. You good? That went into some pretty good detail. But what do you think? What do you think of that? Good question. This is the next generation. So Cal Atlas goes dark. This is now correct. That's correct. Yeah. Yep. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how. Okay. So through that video, we wanted to produce that. And we wanted to put that on our YouTube channel so that we can give that high-level overview. But obviously, we want to dig a little bit deeper. So I'm going to dig a bit deeper into some of the functionality and capabilities of the tool. But I want to note also for you that on that same YouTube channel, we're using that as a mechanism to get training videos out on how to actually administer content, administer data on it, and new features that we're going to add into the future. The plan here is to tie in social media to the Geoportal and some of the activities that we're doing statewide in GIS, because we're a community of users. We want to be connected. And that's one place where we're going to do that. Why don't we go ahead, and I'm going to dive into a couple of these tabs here, and we'll get to the question of administering content and administering information. But I want to spend a little bit of time in terms of search so that you're aware of some of the capabilities here. We're over Wi-Fi here, so bear with us. Okay, good. Come on. Come on. All right, good. Okay, so you see some interesting things here. You see enter a keyword or you see search by location. This is what differentiates the Geoportal from a lot of applications out there. You can not only do the traditional search by keyword, that's easy, everyone's familiar with that. You know, we do that on a Google or a Bing search, but we can also search for data based on location. This is extremely important for when we're a business looking at a specific area we want to do a bid on. Or if we're doing some cross-functional exercises around emergency management on some of our border areas. What if we wanted to find data coming from Oregon because we're dealing with forestry issues? What the Geoportal does is it links to many different portals. And as you noticed in the presentation previously in the video, we mentioned that the Geoportal does not house anyone's data. And that's true. There's no data housed in this. The fuel that makes this engine run is metadata. It's a small XML file that references your content. And there's some very basics behind that. And it's important to note the basics. It's who developed it, who the contact is, an abstract, description, the spatial extent, things that you want to know about the data if you're going to grab it and use it in a mobile environment. You know, you want to point to who the developer of that information is to reference it, or if you're going to build a web application or a GIS application. You know, the old adage of garbage in, garbage out, we want to have authoritative data so we can make good decisions. You'll notice over here, there's a drop down. So it's not just data that we would just download and use, right? You could also access live data or static maps or catalogs of information from all across the state and literally all across the nation. What I really like about this is that when we look at search around live map services, whatever live map services, essentially web maps that are registered within the portal, you can immediately search by a keyword and retrieve those and then integrate those or mash those up into the map viewer, which we have right here, to build a map right on the fly. So before you even download the data, before you even get it, you can preview it, you can access it and use it. We've also tied in some commercial resources. So ArcGIS Online is a registered portal on our portal. So if you only wanted to search State of California and a commercial resource like ArcGIS Online based on keyword or geography, those results would then be returned to you, as well as the state of Oregon. We also have cataloged the state of Nevada. And we're also cataloging, actually as we speak, hopefully they're working on it today, the state of Arizona. So any state that's bordering us, we want to capture their catalogs. So it's a comprehensive view, because we know geographic phenomena doesn't stop at a border. It doesn't stop at a county line or a state line. By nature, that's how it is, right? So we want to be able to search and find that kind of data. Lastly, we're tied into geodata.gov. So any federal geographic data resources can be searched along with California resources or any number of these other data portals within one view. Very convenient, very quick, very easy, very intuitive to use. So why don't we go ahead, and I'm gonna just go for a quick search here, and I'm gonna zoom in. I don't have a mouse, so let's see how this will work. Let's do a geography-based search. Okay. Hopefully I got this right. Let's look for any data set related to Santa Cruz. And I'm going to search on the State of California Geoportal and hit search and see what we get. Okay, so immediately we received 266 results. Now I want to note, the California Geoportal catalogs city, county, state, federal, tribal, and education data. So we have essentially all 58 counties' data that's publicly available, because only publicly available data sets are available on the portal, cataloged within it. So if you're interested in looking at Santa Cruz data because you're doing some work, Alameda County, Sacramento, Orange, it's there. That was a very quick return. And I could pose the question, how often have you searched for data for days trying to find it, poking around here and there? I'm going to go to the county website and find it. Oh, I'll go to a state website and find it. We just did that search in less than 3 seconds and returned every result related to Santa Cruz within the portal. Pretty powerful, I think. So let me scroll up here, and let's look at a scenario where we want to build a map on the fly. So why don't we look for, I don't know, let's look for tsunami threat. We hit search. You'll notice that, again, we return results. So within the portal, we have several different tsunami layers. If I expand it, we can start to look at things related to that data. So the screen turned yellow because that's essentially showing the extent of the data that's available for us. But when we come over and start playing around with some of these details here, we can start to get a better understanding of what the information's all about. But if we wanted to add it to a map, we simply click Add to Map. It fires off the Geoportal's viewer. And because it's a live web service coming from an entirely different organization, we can then overlay that on top of the map and begin to interact with it. We could set transparencies to it. We could print the map. But better yet, if you're a mobile developer, you could go download that data and build it into a native app. I mean, the information's there. Secretary Ramos mentioned there's over 11,000 layers right now available, but that's just the beginning. And I always state this, and I kind of cringe when I say this, but it's true. The Geoportal will never be complete. It'll never be done, because there always will be information added to it. There will always be new, fresh content brought into it, and old content stripped out that's no longer relevant. This is where this community of users really plays a key role. So if your organization has information in there and wants to use this as a tool to manage and share data, you have to play an interactive part in it. You have to make sure that your content's relevant and fresh. We're going to maintain the infrastructure and the system for it, but it's your data. It's your prerogative to share what you want to share. Okay, let me close or minimize that, and we'll go back up. So that's where we're going to rely on the organizations that are contributing, right? And if we do run into, as you saw, there were several different ones, but they were coming from different organizations and some from the same organization. It's part of the vetting process. It's part of going through it. To answer your question before that question, when we want to talk about the administration portion of this, I'll show you what I mean by that and how that's managed on the back end. Okay. All right, so let's tap into the browse button. Oh, my Internet Explorer's giving me that trouble there. Okay, so if you're not interested in looking at it from a search perspective, where you want to look at from a map and search by geography, you can actually search by different categories. Many of us here are familiar with ISO standard topic categories. The data has also been broken down because it's reliant on the metadata. Remember, the metadata is the fuel that runs this. There's an ISO category that's noted within it. So we can go through the ISO categories and click on one, and immediately, based on the ISO category, bring up data sets that are related to that. So it's a very quick, easy way to access information. One of the major goals behind the Geoportal was to provide access to information in 2 to 3 clicks. That's key, because way back when I actually did GIS and didn't hit, now I'm an expert at hitting send on Outlook. I used to do this stuff, and I know how difficult it is to find content. I know how difficult it is to find data, to build products that you're being asked to build. And the notion of 2 to 3 clicks to information, I think, is really going to be impactful for a lot of folks. So lastly, let's talk about the administration portion of this. Now, the way this works is each organization typically has a data steward, someone that's responsible for their information. What we would like to see is that information steward, or that data steward, sign up for an administrative account on the Geoportal. And we have an entire infrastructure set up behind the scenes called our GeoID validation tool that allows you to obtain an ID, very similar to like a Google ID. So many of you use Google, like for Gmail or Docs? One in the front? Yeah, okay, there's more. The notion is it's one key to open up many resources. So the GeoID for the state of California will allow you, based on your role, access to administering content and information on the Geoportal. It'll also allow you to have access to many of the other tools that we've developed that I'm not going to speak about today, but I'll mention briefly, like our property parcel viewer for the state. We have all 58 counties, and I was speaking earlier to some gentlemen in the front about this. A comprehensive land-based tool that you have to have access to through the GeoID to get. Also, our enterprise geocoder. We have a geocoder for state use that geocodes 2.5 million records an hour, on average at an accuracy rating of 93%. That's pretty dang significant. And again, that is a resource for the state of California to use. So GeoID can unlock a lot of those capabilities and tools for you. But from an administration perspective, to answer your question, you would essentially log in, and you would choose how you want to add information to it. Our preference is that we do a live sync to your metadata catalog. That way, if you change metadata, we automatically refresh it. We can do it incrementally by hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, biannually, what have you. But you can see I'm logged in here. I can see everyone because I have privileges to see everyone. And a user can say, you know what, I want to go ahead and I want to add a resource. And there's 3 items that come up. You can register it on your network. Can't even see that, sorry. Upload metadata from local disk. But also use one of the dedicated editors. This is where this gets exciting to me, is because a lot of us struggle with what kind of metadata editors should we use? What kind of standards should we use? Within the tool, there are several different metadata editors built into it that you can go ahead, grab, and use, and the Geoportal will consume it, will catalog it. I thought my video was gone. It was. Oh, it was. It was over here. But this is great. Being able to do this right here from the Geoportal is fantastic. But if you're a GIS practitioner, you could also publish metadata right from your GIS desktop session. There's a toolbar that's available through ArcMap and ArcCatalog if you're an Esri user to be able to publish content right from that session you're working in. And it's all logged into through the GeoID. So there's many ways for you to register information, but the key is that we manage the roles on the back end. You could be someone that posts information. You could be someone that is an administrator, an approver, a disapprover. That's up to the organization to determine. So I'm going to jump into one of these real fast just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to use this one. This is a proposed standard that we're working on. It's the California Metadata Standard. It's a minimum standard based on FGDC, Federal Geographic Data Committee, or Consortium, I think. And instead of all 150 elements that nobody has the time or patience to fill out, it's been pared down to a minimum of, I believe, 10 to 12 very simple, easy to use elements to fill in. And many of these elements are pre-populated based on your login credentials. So all the contact information, your organizational contact information, your address, your phone number, email, all that's pre-populated. Really, all you're doing is entering in an abstract, a description, and determining the spatial extent of your information. And then that's registered within the portal. And the way you would find that information is, let's say I entered one in, it would come in, sorry, this thing keeps popping up. Let me just refresh. So if I entered in a data set, it would come into my list, and then I would have the choice as administrator for my organization to give it the green light or review it and say, no, you're missing an element, go back and fix this, resubmit. So there's a lot of checks and balances because we want the best, most authoritative content to be present in the portal. Did that answer your question? I hope? Okay. We recommend as many folks that want to, but we also manage the role by which that GeoID has access to things. Okay, so I mentioned the parcel viewer, the property viewer. You have to be in that role, and you have to specify why you have a need to be in that role. And it's vetted and confirmed back with your organization. Hey, does Joe Smith need to have this? Okay, GeoID, there's a role called customer. And customer is very general. That means you can have access at a very cursory level to lots of things. But to dig deeper, you have to justify your ability to be in that role. Yeah, no, that was one of the first things, like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to come out and want to get one of these. But we have to be able to manage access, and that's something we do on the back end with our, in fact, I'll just show you real fast, with our GeoID system. How we do it on time there. Yeah, essentially, if you wanted to come in and you wanted to set up a GeoID, you click on register, and it'll take you to an entirely different system. Why is this not? This Wi-Fi is just killing me here. Yeah, we'll give that a little bit of time. Oh, there it goes. So we have an account center. It's where you would, sign up. You would register. Hey, I want to create one. I want to be part of these different roles. John, I think we have maybe 4 or 5 roles established. Geocoder, parcel viewer, editor, things like that. And more roles will come online as more needs are determined from the community. If there's other applications or tools that need to be developed and you need to provide very specific access to those folks, that can be controlled. And it's basically using .NET roles behind the scenes to be able to manage that. Okay. So we're all probably wondering what this tab is. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. But I'm going to tell you in case you were. This is called My Map. Now this is not going to be the final name. We're kicking around different names. But this is going to be, I think, groundbreaking in the state. So I'm sure as you've noticed as I talked about the Geoportal, there's a little bit of a technical know-how, how to use this, how to navigate, maybe a certain level of understanding of geographic information systems or IT in general. What the My Map application, or the notion of My Map is going to do, is it's going to expand the use of mapping to all 38 million citizens of the state. That's a tall order, but hear me out on this. This is what we're thinking and what we're doing. It's actually already in development and is being used. So we have all these data resources within Geoportal, all coming from various organizations, whether it's county, city, federal, state, tribal, education. Many of them are live map services. What we've done is we've developed a mapping tool that allows you by category in easy to understand, not geobabble English, but easy to understand. I want to know what the fire threat is for my area, floodplain for for an area I'm looking at. Registered offenders near my home. It's going to give the citizen the ability to check which layers they want and mash that data up into a map. Their map, my map. Something that's relevant to them. And we think the use of this is going to skyrocket. We think that, I mean, the possibilities are really infinite as to what kinds of maps people will want to make and how they'll want to share them. So with this map, you'll be able to save it, print it, email it to a friend, and it will persist on our system as long as you want that to persist. So all this information, all this infrastructure is actually running out of one of our Tier 3 data centers. That's another advantage here. It's not just running on a simple server in a basement somewhere. This is in a full-on, full-blown Tier 3 data center managed by the state of California, by OTEC, which is essentially a technology agency. This application, our plan is to roll this out in midsummer. We're looking at June. I was a little ambitious. You can see if I scroll down, I put May. I'll correct that. But more than likely, mid-June, June timeframe to roll this out. Our goal in this is to get as many people wanting to access the Geoportal, to input information, to develop those web services, to make those available to government, to citizen, and business. And the beauty of MyMap being coupled with Geoportal is that if you build it once, you can use it in many locations. You build a map for, like Secretary Ramos mentioned earlier, you're moving to the state. You want to know what the schools are like in an area. What types of natural hazards are there? What's the public transportation infrastructure? That information is accessed through Geoportal and just mashed up into this map. And now it's yours. And it's under your management. And it'll persist as long as you want it to. The other aspect here is that you can check that map and want to make that public, and you can share that with anybody. It's going to go on another page we're developing called the California Map Gallery, and that's where those maps will sit. So just as you see these maps here in this gallery within the portal, wow, this thing is just killing me. Essentially, those same categories will be present, but we're also thinking of another category, and it's socially derived maps, socially derived data. What's important to our constituents? You know, we oftentimes build maps and we just give them out. Hey, here you go. Is this what you want? No, we want feedback. We want feedback from citizens on what information is important. And for me, as GIO for the state, I need to be able to understand where we have gaps in data, where we need to invest dollars in data that's more relevant and more important to our constituents. And this will just be another way to take the temperature of what our community wants and what they actually need. And as the Wi-Fi spins, there we go. Yeah. Yes, question, Dan? Sure. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Providing they persist that link to the data. Let's say they did a refresh, okay? Providing they persist that link, yes, it would be there. The other part of this is that you can actually subscribe to the organization that you're interested in to receive updates when things occur. So if, okay, so CHP. Let's see CHP changed the way in which they disseminate traffic collision information or construction information with Caltrans on roads. If there are changes, because it's a live map service, those will be, providing that link is persisted, reflected in that map. The map's a living, breathing document when it's a live map. It's not static information that you're bringing in. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Dan. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I'm really glad you said that. Yeah. Yeah. That's the next phase. So as part of this notion of My Map, you build the map. You could tweet it. You could post it on Facebook. You could Instagram it. You could do all kinds of different things with it. That's the whole idea. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, is we want to tie this into social media. We know that the next computing paradigm is the mobile phone. I mean, in 2013, mobile phones, the number of mobile phones are expected to exceed the population of the Earth. I mean, we'd be crazy to not think that this is not the next platform and we wouldn't be building towards it. Everything we're building is towards the web, everything. At least in my shop, and John can attest to this, everything we do is towards the web. So the idea of being able to do that, that's fantastic to me because it gets a broader reach, a broader scope of the great work that we do in terms of mapping. And that might spur on some ideas for like a 13-year-old kid in England who made $30 million off of developing an app in his basement, right? Maybe, true story, maybe he could grab some of this information and build something interesting for the state. You never know. The idea is to get this resource into the hands of people that can actually use it. Out of obscurity, locked up in different departments and agencies, and out into the public, and out into a way in which it can be leveraged and utilized by many, many different audiences. Any other questions? I hear crickets. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Absolutely. So, right. So the question was, are Google Fusion tables compatible with the architecture here within Geoportal? And I'd also imagine within the notion of My Map. Yes, but one word of caution. Fusion tables are experimental. Its intention is not to be, as far as I understand it, its intention is not to be a geographic data repository or an ability for you to retrieve geographic information. It's sort of an academic exercise. Now, we use fusion tables a lot in government, and keeping that in mind, that's part of the architectural development of this. So we don't want to be beholden to one technology. So if Google does change that, then we'll morph and work with that platform if it's relevant for the user community. I mean, this is not technology agency's Geoportal. This is the state of California's Geoportal. And we want it to be as agile and adaptable to what the IT environment is. And where it changes, we want to move with it if it makes sense. So, any other questions? Yeah. No, go ahead. That's right. Yep. Yeah. And also within that, there's different levels of what you can have access to and do within My Map. Anybody can get on there and build a map, okay? But with the ID, you can get in there and do things like run it against our geocoder, upload GIS files to load onto your map. Yeah, so there's a little more functionality and capability there. Yeah, question, Danny. Of Portal? Yeah, this is latest. Mm-hmm. Yes, question. Right. Well, it's not only the update to the map that you may have configured, but it's an alert that's sent to you based on your login. So as in your login, you can set favorites. You can set favorites to where, I want updates from Caltrans, or I want updates from County of Napa, or whatever. Pat, I hope that's okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the scenario is, can you be able to extract information that you developed on one of your maps in the raw form that it's natively in? Is that?
Sure.
Is that oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Let me Right. So I'm going to put in an obscure search criteria here. So let's say you wanted. Oh God, I'm sorry. This thing is just driving me nuts. No. Okay. So I just did a search on something very obscure. Aspen trees. Aspen tree delineations based on a county. Let's say I wanted to go to Inyo National Forest. Okay. I could, in turn, come over here. I could expand that and then click open. And what that's going to do is it's going to take me directly to the FTP site. Yeah. So remember that idea of 2 clicks to the data? That open link under the actual data heading, that's where you would directly download it, or you would directly add it to a map. Yeah. Yeah. This is one area where I think the mobile development community is going to be very excited to be able to access state data, access the raw open files, and start to integrate them into native apps. Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So if you, let's click on one, I'll show you. So there's a kind of a cleaned up version that's easier to read because we've all read metadata documents. Sometimes they come out as XML and they're very jumbled. But this is a breakdown of what that might look like. But we could also, if you're into that sort of thing, click on the metadata and grab the metadata directly. Yeah. Any other questions? I know we're going short here. Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. This portal itself is only for publicly accessible data. There is no sensitive proprietary information on this portal. Correct. There is another, letting the cat out of the bag. There's something behind the scenes here that is really only for government use. So I'll use the example of emergency management. A separate portal that organizations can log into, providing that they are vetted and able to get through that process to access that kind of information. For a specific event where they can go grab collections of data to go and respond to that event. Yeah. It's in the works. It's not running right now. Yeah. That needs to be tied into efforts at CalEMA and others. But that's the idea. That's the plan. Okay. Yeah, question? That's a good question. Typically, probably not initially. I mean, we would have to assess what the demand would be for that. Typically, when folks are going to access this application, it's going to be at the desktop level. I have accessed this on a tablet. I have accessed it on my iPhone. But I don't think you're going to have the same experience. If there is a need for that, we would certainly go that direction. On your Android? Oh. Okay, well, John. Yeah. So, I mean, right. Okay, so that's a good point. The original intention was not for mobile for this. But if there is a need to access through mobile, then we need to make a few tweaks. Like I said, it'll never be complete. It's always going to change and morph to the needs. Yeah, sweet. So built. Okay, so for example, all right. So let's get after that. So if we launch this map viewer, instead of that, you would have your choice to say, load on Apple Map, load on Google Map, load on Bing. Yeah, it'll just browser detection. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I see John taking notes mentally right now. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I know, buddy. I know. I know. You know, we want to be as platform agnostic as possible. We want this to work on all, but we realize that there's a great demand in many different camps. You know, we have mobile web, we have Android, we also have iOS. So, you know, this next coming year, a lot of our development, especially as we saw in the keynote, and as Secretary Ramos was speaking, there's a big push for mobile. This is a component of mobile. This is what's going to fuel mobile development for state apps, because we're now accessing really relevant mobile data, or really relevant geographic data that can be embedded into the mobile environment. So this is good. Yeah, another question. Uh-huh. Yes, there is. Yeah. 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 So, and we're keeping it very, very simple. So, and we're not even going to call them widgets. We're going to call them, how far am I from? How close am I to? You know, buffers. The ability to print a map, the ability to mark up your map. But I like the idea of adding data, and we've actually developed a linkage to our geocoder that we talked about before, where you can geocode, where do we put the limit, John? Up to somewhere between, was it 5,000? Well, for my map. Okay, so we're going to minimize the numbers of geocodes. I mean, the average citizen isn't really going to geocode over 5,000 records. But what happens is you can upload a spreadsheet, you can upload a CSV, you can upload an MDB, a DBF, you know, whatever. It's using the Microsoft Jet engine, and you'll be able to run it against our geocoder, and it goes quick. And then what'll happen is it'll drop the maps, or the points on the map, the lat long on the map. Then you can symbolize that however you want from a palette. Also, though, if you're the citizen that actually is very GIS savvy and has built shape files and layers and data, you can also upload that onto your map. And that information then persists on the system. So you'll be able to recall that map, share that map as long as you want, and delete it when you want. And it's up to your discretion to do that. Unlimited. Unlimited, yeah. All right, let me get my wallet out. I'll write the check. This is part of a larger business strategy within my division, where the infrastructure exists. Director Ron Hughes, who was just appointed as the director over OTEC, is implementing a cloud strategy. This will be part of that as an elastic computing capability. So as the need and the demand goes up, the storage costs go down, and it's covered. Yes.
USGS has given us 1 foot resolution on the Colorado River.
Mm-hmm.
That we want to, on our GFE rival to EPA, USGS.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of storage and trying not to fall it down.
Uh-huh.
Would I be able to load that?
That kind of information, no. Now, when the kind of information that you'd be able to load are things like this gentleman just mentioned. I have points, and I want to load those and persist those on the system. Now, in terms of storage of data, we're relying on our partner organizations. They're the experts. I'm not a hydrologist. You know, I'm not a geophysicist. I want that data to sit where the experts are. I'm an expert in GIS, so we're going to manage and maintain the infrastructure for that. That's the whole idea behind this. This is federated search. It goes out to the resource, grabs it, and uses it. But the infrastructure to support this is in place. The ability to disseminate maps, the elasticity of computing will grow and expand, especially in emergency management. That was a big consideration of when we developed this. Because what I would really love to see is I would love to see citizens building maps around emergencies. I mean, example, 2007, San Diego's on fire. I was over at the State Operations Center, and we were getting maps that people were building in using Google, saying, oh, there's a fire at the end of my cul-de-sac. You know, how do you do that? Socially derived data, how do you inject that into the intelligence process, the decision-making process? I don't think we know yet. But that's really important open source intelligence to be able, and information to be able to bring into making decisions. But why not give people a mechanism to do that? And that's kind of what we're approaching here with this. One other thing to note, and you touched on it a little bit in terms of how is this funded, okay? Starting, well, I can't give you the start date, but I can tell you what's in the works right now. So we're working, my division is working with Department of Finance for the very first GIS services offering in the state of California, okay? And that services offering is going to take into consideration 4 items. In any department and agency, any county, any city can take this on. It's going to be web map development, so the ability to get on our infrastructure, build web maps, the ability to do unlimited geocoding, the ability to get consulting and application development services, and GIS application hosting. That will be hosted all out of technology agency, and it'll be on an annual basis, and it'll be at a very, very reasonable cost. Very reasonable. I won't reveal the number, but I think when you hear it, you're going to go, wow. Yeah, so that's coming very, very soon. Finance is supposed to come back with us for that. And we're very excited about that. You'll see a lot more towards the latter part of the year in terms of rollout of that. And I'm getting the wrap it up from the back. So I want to thank you for your time. I know this was the fire hose treatment for information. There's a lot going on there. Please feel free to contact me at any time. My contact information, let me put it up here for you. Is there email, phone number? All your inquiries will be directed to John Carota. And no, I just thank you for your time and your attention. We're really, really excited about this. We're really excited about working with you and you know, really continuing the success of the state of California's GIS program. So thank you for your time.